Hello everybody, welcome back to Ren Draws Disney. My name is Ren and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. So the other day I was at essentially the dollar store of South Korea and they were selling these adorable Disney figures for essentially the equivalent of $3 US. So I bought a Tigger figure and a Chip and Dale figure. However, when I got a closer look at it, you could tell it was cheaply made. Paint job was really messy, like there were tons of blowouts of paint around the eyes and spots that were just not covered up. And I've been watching a ton of videos lately on doll repaints or custom doll paints. And I thought it would be really fun to challenge myself to repaint this little figure that I bought. My dad, when I was growing up, did a lot of figure painting. And again, I've never in my life done a figure painting before, so I'm really hoping it goes well. I'm excited to get to try something new. For those of you who have seen my channel before, you know that I do a lot of digital art. I do traditional as well. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the figure painting. Buckle up, put on your ears, and let's make some magic. Okay, so this is the figure that I ended up buying at Daiso. I thought it was super cute. However, there are a lot of blowouts on this, so you can see up here by the eyes, the white paint goes past the eye line. His mouth isn't even really painted. There's a lot of unpainted spaces around the nose, and also the stripes are not very well painted either. So I thought it would be really fun to try my first ever figure repaint. I've never done one of these before, but I believe that acrylics, figure painting acrylics, are the best to use. So what I'm going to do first is I am going to use nail polish remover, acetone, to get rid of the original paint layer. And we'll be using some Q-tips for the smaller spots, and I'll be using probably some cotton pads and also paper towels to get rid of that first. I also at the same time bought this figure of Chip and Dale that I'm assuming was made by the same makers as this one. And this one's not terrible, but similarly there's some spaces around Dale's nose that are unpainted. If my camera would focus, there we go. And around the log, his belly, his tail stripe is not really perfectly done either. So later, if this figure repaint is a success, I would love to try it with these guys as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. As you can see, I did a little test with the acetone right here on the back of the log, and it seemed to take off pretty well. I'm pretty sure the orangish layer underneath is a primer, and then that more clear white space kind of in the center is the actual plastic. So I'm gonna try and get it down to the foundations and put on my own primer. So let's begin. Of all the things that came off the most easily, the stripes were definitely the most easy to get rid of, but the white paint that they used initially in making this did not come off very easily. As you can see, it's still on his nose, his belly, and his eye mask. And I don't know if that was the primer or the actual paint. So at this point we have about the upper half of the figure completely cleaned off. It's taken about a half an hour just to do the upper half of the body, and as you can see there is a lot of paper towel and tissue that was used just to do this portion. So we're going to keep going and hopefully get the other bottom half done and primed, and we'll go from there. Now on the lower half of the body, the lower half definitely was a lot easier to work with than the upper half of the body. And I don't know if that was because there was less white paint to deal with, but the stripes and orange came off quick. This is definitely going to take a while, so hang in there. The thing I hated the most about this process was the smell of acetone in my room. Alright, so I think we are finally at a spot where I can kind of stop. There's a few spots that I might try and get, but this is after about, I would say 45 minutes to an hour of cleaning. The log, because it has these tiny little spaces, even with a Q-tip, it's really hard to get into. And like these little spots behind the ears are really tricky as well. And I couldn't perfectly get all of the plastic cleaned without the orange stain. But you can see there are some spots that are less stained than others, the top of the nose, the side of this body here. But yeah, I think it's in a good enough spot where I can start priming him and getting him ready for the new paint. All right, so we have our paints ready to go. I've got some mixed here. For details, we're going to be using a smaller brush. But yeah, I just kind of want to jump into painting because I'm really excited to do this. So right now, the colors I'm using are vermilion hue, black color as well. I have a tiny bit of burnt sienna put on the palette. I'm not sure if I'm going to use it yet for the fur. And then the last is obviously titanium white. But yeah, let's go ahead and just get started painting the little guy. This one is lemon yellow. So for this process, I wanted to go ahead and add in a darker layer of orange. So as you can see, I'm putting it kind of in the creases and crevices of his hands, his legs. And then I also go in with some gold and yellow color and kind of add some brighter highlights onto the fur. But yeah, for now I'm just kind of darkening in certain spots that there will be shadows in. We got his pink little nose coming along, obviously the easiest part, and then we start the white. And the white was kind of the most difficult part of this process. It laid on really well, but some of the areas of primer did not hold the paint as well, so I had to go back and do multiple layers, which then added a lot more texture. So as you can see on the side of his mouth, there was one spot that I couldn't particularly get, so I had to go back multiple times and do that. As I mentioned before, you can see that spot on his belly where the primer wasn't holding onto that white color. The stripes were easily my favorite part of this process because they were detailed, they were small and really fun, and I like to do really tiny details on things, so I had a blast. Also, I prefer the brown color over the black that came with it initially. I think it just looks more in character. Okay, so we finally have the base done. I loved adding the yellows into the fur. I feel like he looks a lot more dynamic now. I put a little shine on his nose and in his eyes. We got some yellow around the ears, some brown and pink on the inside. I just think he looks more dimensional. Okay, so today is day 2. Tigger has had all night to dry the orange and brown layers. So today the goal is to finish the log, finish the base, and basically get him all complete. What I'm hoping to do is on the log, I want to add a little more texture as well as maybe some like moss or some cuts in the bark to just give it a little bit more life than it had before. So let's get started. So the log itself was really easy to do. Just kind of got in some brown tones and then went in with a wet brush and painted in some darker areas to kind of make those lines of the logs pop. And then for the lighter areas of the log, I went in with a Q-tip and cleaned it up, adding on some green moss just in speckles around the log to give it some fun color. can honestly say that painting these mushrooms was my favorite part, other than doing the gold and the fur. It was really fun to go in with that tiny brush and put on those dots. And for the last part, I'm painting the base green to kind of match the grassy feel, and then adding on some speckles of flowers here and there to patch it all up together. Okay, so the repaint is officially finished. I am very, very proud with how this turned out, especially considering I've never ever done this before. I think he turned out great. I added a lot of details that he doesn't really have in the cartoon, but I thought it would be cute, like this little brown and gold stripe on the top of his nose, and also on the insides of his ears. We've got some gold here too. For the grass, I put some flowers on the bottom front and some mushrooms on the back of the log just to add some dimension and character. Some moss on the log as well. I wanted to really give this a more playful, detailed feel to it, so I'm very, very satisfied with how it turned out. I think one of my favorite parts is this gold stripe hiding underneath the brown stripes on the tail. I liked adding the gold. He's got one here on the shoulder and on the tips of his fingers and feet. It just makes certain parts of his body stand out a lot more, and I'm really happy with the way that this looks. That was a lot of work. Some things that I learned while doing this process. I don't know if I just got a cheap style of nail polish remover and that's why it didn't work as well. It took so long to scrub off the initial paint. And again, I don't know if it was the nail polish I bought. I don't know if it was the paint that they had used in the first place. I don't know if it just takes that long to scrub off a base layer. But that took me about an hour and a half in its own, which was much longer than I was expecting. And there were still even bits and pieces of the paint remaining when I was putting on my base layer. So if you guys have any advice as to how to make that process go faster, I would sincerely appreciate it, because oh my god, my hands were hurting before I even started painting. Also, I'm sure it doesn't help, but it has literally no name. It just says nail polish remover. It's a Korean brand that I got at like the E-Mart over here. As for the acrylics I used, I was very pleasantly surprised with them. As I mentioned in the actual painting process, they are not perfectly intended to do figure painting. You can use them for figure painting, but they're predominantly meant to be used on a canvas or to do traditional style of artwork. What I loved about those paints is that they dried fast, so I could go back and work on sections that I had missed previously pretty quickly. Also, these specific paints did a lot of cool texturing. However, that texturing was kind of a blessing and a curse. It was a blessing because I wanted his fur to look like fur, and it did. Where it became a curse was when you pulled the brush across certain sections of the figure, it did not lay flat. So there were little kinds of clumps that then just kind of built with each layer. And that was a little frustrating because there were certain areas that I wanted to be smoother versus more textured. So that would be probably the only negative I have to say about the paints. Otherwise, I really did love them. I think they worked spectacularly for what I wanted. Also, if you all use a specific type of paint for your figure paintings, or if you know of other artists who use really nice paints, I would be more than happy to take recommendations or comments down below about what do you do for your process. I don't think I've lost track of time as much as I did doing this, and that's such a good thing because it felt really, really good to just get lost in this figure painting. I think I started at around 9:50 at night on the first night, and I didn't go to sleep until 2:30 or 3 in the morning. As for the figure's turnout, I am very happy with the way he turned out. I think some of my favorite parts about the figure are the little stripes of gold that I decided to add in. I felt like that's what it was missing so badly when I first bought it. It was missing depth, it was missing fun, it was missing character, it just felt like a cheap figure. And that's what it was supposed to be. That's what it was intended to be. Next time I do a figure paint, I'll be sure to actually take video of the figure before I begin painting it. I think I was just so excited to jump into the painting process that I just didn't even think. I jumped into it, and I'm sorry, and I promise I'll do better next time. If you like these types of videos, please, by all means, let me know. I think this is so fun. If you would like to see this become a regular part of this channel, leave a comment, because I think figure painting is going to be something that I fall in love with. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come to my channel and watch my video. If you could do me a huge favor and just subscribe if you liked what you saw, or if you can't subscribe, go ahead and just leave a like or leave a comment to kind of push my channel up a little bit. I would sincerely appreciate it. Anywho, that is all for today. I hope you all have a magical day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye for now.